The morning light from Kepler 442 bits painted the classroom walls in soft orange hues. Yuna Kim sat in her usual spot at the back corner, almost invisible among the mix of alien students. Her dark hair fell like a curtain across her face as she bent over her notebook. To anyone watching, she looked like just another quiet human student, trying not to draw attention. Professor Velthar clicked his forearms against the holographic display. His crystalline skin caught the light as he pointed to the image of a massive predator from the outer rim. The creature had razor-sharp teeth and claws that could cut through steel. "This is the shadow beast of Terminus Prime," the professor said in his metallic voice. "Notice how its bone structure creates natural weak points here and here." He highlighted two spots on the creature's neck and chest. Yuna's pen moved across her paper, but she was not taking notes about the lesson. Instead, she drew detailed diagrams showing exactly where those weak points were located. Her drawings were perfect, like she had studied real shadow beasts up close. She added small notes about pressure points and nerve clusters that the professor had not even mentioned. Todd Park, sitting 3 seats away, glanced over at her notebook. His eyes widened when he saw her drawings. They were not the work of a student. They looked like military analysis charts. He wanted to ask her about them, but Yuna never talked much to anyone. The classroom was filled with different species from across the galaxy. There were tall, blue-skinned Zeltharians like Professor Velthar. The Vortex students sat in the middle rows, their clawed hands drumming impatiently on their desks. Near the front, the insect-like Chitauri buzzed quietly to each other in their native language. Crix, the largest Vorthak in the class, turned around to stare at the human students. His yellow eyes were filled with disgust. He had complained many times that humans did not belong in the academy. According to him, humans were too weak and stupid to learn alongside superior species. Yuna looked up for just a moment and met Crix's stare. Her face showed no emotion, but her dark eyes seemed to study every detail of his face and body. She noted how his neck muscles tensed when he was angry. She observed the way his claws extended slightly when he felt threatened. Then she looked back down at her notebook and continued drawing. Professor Velthar finished his lecture about predator anatomy. "Your assignment for tomorrow is to analyze the weak points of any species we have studied this term. Remember, understanding your enemy's vulnerabilities is the key to survival." As students began packing their bags, Crix stood up and blocked Ta's path to the door. His claws were fully extended now, gleaming under the classroom lights. "Human," Crix growled, "you and your kind disgust me. You are nothing but soft meat that should not be allowed to breathe the same air as real warriors." Ta stepped back, his face pale. Other students stopped to watch, but none moved to help. Conflicts between species were common at the academy, and most aliens enjoyed watching humans get intimidated. "I do not want any trouble," Ta said quietly. Crix laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Trouble finds weak species whether they want it or not. Maybe it is time someone taught you humans your proper place." From her corner, Yuna watched the scene unfold. Her expression remained calm and neutral, but her hand moved to her bag where she kept her personal items. Her fingers traced the outline of something hidden inside. She memorized exactly how Crix moved, how he positioned his body when threatening someone, and where he looked most vulnerable. The confrontation ended when Professor Velthar returned to collect some materials. Crix backed away with a final threatening glare at Ta. As students filed out of the classroom, Yuna was the last to leave. She walked past the spot where Crix had cornered Ta and paused for just a second. Her eyes scanned the floor, the walls, and the ceiling. She was mapping the area, noting every detail that might be useful later. Tay caught up with her in the hallway. "Thank you for earlier," he said. Yuna looked confused. "I did not do anything." "Exactly," Tay replied. "Most humans would have tried to help and made things worse. You stayed smart and stayed safe." Yuna smiled, a sweet, innocent expression that made her look even younger than her 19 years. "I just want to study and graduate without any problems." But as she walked away, her smile faded. In her mind, she was already planning how to deal with the Crick's problem. She had identified 17 different ways to neutralize him without leaving evidence. The only question was which method would send the clearest message to other potential threats. The quiet girl in class had work to do. The emergency alarms woke everyone at 400 hours. Red lights flashed through the corridors of Galactic Academy Station Epsilon 7 as security teams rushed through the hallways. Students peered out of their dormitory rooms, confused and frightened by the sudden commotion. Tay rubbed his eyes and stepped into the hallway. Other human students gathered around him, all asking the same questions. What was happening? Were they under attack? Had someone died? Down the hall, Yuna's door opened slowly. She appeared in her nightclothes, looking sleepy and worried like all the other students. Her hair was messy and her eyes were wide with apparent fear. "What is going on?" she asked in a small, scared voice. Before anyone could answer, Commander Zethrak's voice boomed through the station's communication system. The Nephilim's 6 eyes glowed red with anger as his image appeared on every screen. "All students will remain in their dormitories until further notice. A serious incident has occurred, and we are conducting a full investigation. Anyone found in restricted areas will face immediate disciplinary action." The commander's massive form filled the screens. He stood over 3 meters tall with skin like black stone and arms that could crush a human with one hand. When Nephilim were angry, smart people stayed out of their way. Hours passed before security teams allowed students to leave their rooms. When they finally emerged, whispers spread quickly through the station. Crix, the Vorthak, had been found unconscious in the waste disposal sector. Someone had done something terrible to him. The medical team had found Crix lying in a pool of his own blood. All 4 of his natural claws had been removed with surgical precision. His razor-sharp teeth had been carefully extracted one by one. Even his venomous tail barb was gone. Whoever did this knew exactly how Vorthak anatomy worked. Most shocking of all, the cuts were clean and professional. This was not the work of an angry student with a kitchen knife. Someone with advanced medical knowledge had deliberately disarmed one of the station's most dangerous predators. Dr. Sato, the human medical officer, examined Crix in the infirmary. She had never seen such precise surgical work performed outside of a proper medical facility. The person who did this had tools that could cut through Vorthak bone and scale without leaving ragged edges. "Commander," Dr. Sato reported, "whoever did this wanted Crix alive. These wounds are serious, but not fatal. The attacker could have killed him easily, but chose not to." Commander Zethrak studied the medical report with growing concern. In his 40 years of security work, he had never seen anything like this. The attack was too clean, too professional. It looked like the work of a trained assassin. The investigation began immediately. Security teams reviewed footage from cameras throughout the station. They questioned students and faculty members about their whereabouts during the night. They searched for medical equipment that might have been used in the attack. The first suspects were other Vorthak students. Crix had many enemies among his own kind. He was cruel and violent, even by Vorthak standards. But the security footage showed all Vorthak students in their dormitories during the attack window. Next, they questioned students from warrior species. The Zeltharians, the Mantids, the Razor clans. All had solid alibis. The attack had happened during their meditation periods when they were monitored by automated systems. Finally, they turned their attention to the humans. Commander Zethrak called each human student for individual questioning. He started with Ta since everyone knew about the confrontation with Crix. Tai sat nervously in the security office. "I was asleep all night, Commander. You can check my room's biometric sensors. I never left my dormitory." The sensors confirmed Ta's story. He had been in his room from 2200 hours until the alarms woke him. When they called Yuna for questioning, she appeared even more nervous than Ta. She sat on the edge of her chair, hands trembling slightly as she answered questions. "I heard loud noises around midnight," she said in a quiet voice. "It sounded like maintenance work in the recycling areas, but I was too scared to look outside my room." Commander Zethrak studied the small human girl. She looked like she might cry at any moment. Her story matched the timeline, and her room sensors showed she had been inside all night. "Did you see anything unusual recently? Anyone acting strangely around Crix?" Yuna shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I try to stay away from the Vortex students. They scare me." After the questioning, Yuna returned to her dormitory room. She locked the door and activated her privacy screen. Then she walked to her closet and moved aside some books on the floor. Underneath was a small metal case, hidden beneath loose floorboards. Inside the case were surgical instruments that gleamed like mirrors. Each tool was designed for precision work on different alien anatomies. Beside the instruments was a thick folder containing detailed files on every non-human student and faculty member at the academy. Yuna cleaned each tool carefully with a special solution that removed all traces of biological material. She had worn gloves during the operation, and her stealth suit had left no fiber evidence. The waste disposal area had been chosen specifically because its electromagnetic fields would disrupt security cameras. As she sealed the case and hid it again, Yuna allowed herself a small smile. Crix would never threaten a human student again. More importantly, word would spread quickly among the alien students. The message was clear even if they did not understand who had sent it. Humans were not as helpless as they appeared. Outside her room, other students whispered about the attack. They wondered who could have done such a thing. They looked at each other with suspicion and fear. None of them looked at the quiet girl who sat in the back of their classes. 1 week after the Crix incident, the attacks began happening faster. Professor Velthar was found in his office on Tuesday morning, barely conscious and in terrible pain. Someone had cracked his crystalline carapace in 3 precise locations. The damage would take decades to heal properly. His 4 arms shook as Dr. Seto examined him. The attacker knew exactly where to strike. Dr. Seto told Commander Zethrak. These cracks follow the natural stress lines in Zeltharian bone structure. This kind of knowledge requires years of study. Professor Velthar could barely speak through his pain, but he managed to tell security what had happened. He had been working late when the lights in his office went out. Before he could call for help, something struck him from behind with incredible force. "I never saw who did it," he whispered. "They moved like a shadow." 2 days later, the Chitauri students discovered they could no longer produce their natural pheromones. The insect-like aliens used these chemical signals to communicate with each other. Without them, they were essentially mute among their own kind. The 3 Chitauri who had lost their abilities were known bullies. They had spent months making life difficult for weaker students, especially humans. Now they sat in the medical bay, clicking their mandibles helplessly as Dr. Seto tried to understand what had happened to them. "Someone injected a neural blocker into their pheromone glands," she reported. "The substance is completely unknown to our medical database. Whoever created it understands Chitauri biology better than most Chitauri do." On Friday, the aquatic students from Oceania Prime woke up unable to breathe properly. Someone had temporarily sealed their gills with a biological compound that hardened like concrete but dissolved after exactly 24 hours. They spent the day gasping and struggling before the seals finally broke down. Commander Zethrak stared at the growing list of incidents on his desk. Each attack was different, but they all showed the same surgical precision and deep knowledge of alien anatomy. Whoever was doing this had access to advanced medical equipment and databases that should not exist on a student station. The security investigation expanded rapidly. Teams searched dormitories and questioned hundreds of students and faculty members. They focused on interspecies conflicts, looking for patterns of revenge between different alien groups. Several Vorthax students were detained when investigators found weapons in their rooms. 3 manted warriors were questioned about their combat training. Even some faculty members came under suspicion when their research files showed detailed anatomical studies. The chaos gave Topark an opportunity to organize the human students. He called a meeting in the common room, his friendly face showing genuine concern for his fellow humans. "We need to stick together," he told the group. The aliens are getting paranoid, and they are starting to blame us for everything that goes wrong. Most of the human students nodded in agreement. They had noticed the suspicious looks and whispered conversations that stopped when they walked by. Some aliens were openly hostile now, treating all humans like potential criminals. Yuna sat quietly in the back of the meeting, looking worried and frightened like the others. When Tay asked for suggestions, she raised her hand timidly. "Maybe we should keep track of which aliens are being hostile toward us," she suggested in a small voice. "If we document everything, we can prove we are being unfairly targeted." The other humans thought this was a great idea. They began sharing stories about alien students and faculty members who had treated them badly. Yuna listened carefully to every name and every detail, occasionally asking innocent questions that revealed more information. "Has anyone noticed security patterns around the station?" she asked. "I mean, when do the guards change shifts? Which areas have the most cameras?" Her questions seemed to come from genuine fear about safety. The other humans eagerly shared what they had observed, thinking they were helping their group stay safe. After the meeting, Yuna returned to her room and updated her files. Each piece of information from the support group helped her understand the station's security better. She now knew which aliens posed threats to humans and which areas were best for avoiding detection. Commander Zethrak worked late into the night, studying the pattern of attacks. Something was bothering him about the timing and targets. He pulled up detailed files on each victim and began cross-referencing their recent activities. Slowly, a disturbing pattern emerged. Every alien who had been attacked had done something hostile toward human students in the weeks before their incident. Crix had threatened Ta directly. Professor Velthar had given failing grades to 3 human students for no clear reason. The Chitauri bullies had been harassing humans in the dining hall. The aquatic students had been spreading rumors that humans carried diseases. The commander leaned back in his chair, all 6 of his eyes wide with realization. These were not random attacks or interspecies conflicts. Someone was systematically targeting aliens who posed threats to the human student population. But who could have the knowledge, equipment, and access needed to carry out such precise attacks? And more importantly, how many more incidents would happen before he could stop them? Outside his office, the station continued its normal activities. Students attended classes, ate meals, and studied in the library. Everything appeared peaceful and normal. In her dormitory room, Yuna reviewed her target list and selected the next name. Jin Lee stared at the security monitors until his eyes burned. As the newest human intern in Commander Zethrak's security department, he had been assigned the boring job of reviewing months of old footage. While other officers investigated active leads, Jin watched endless hours of corridor cameras and common area recordings. Most security staff thought the work was pointless. The attacks were too professional to leave obvious traces on standard surveillance equipment. But Jin had a different theory. He believed the attacker had to scout locations before striking. Someone that precise would need to study their targets and plan their approach. After 3 days of searching, Jin found something interesting. In the footage from 2 hours before Crix was attacked, a small figure appeared briefly in the waste disposal area. The person was barely visible, just a shadow moving between camera angles. But the timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Jin pulled up footage from before Professor Velthar's attack. Again, he found a brief glimpse of someone near the professor's office building. The figure was small and moved carefully to avoid direct camera observation. The pattern continued for every incident. Someone had been scouting each location hours before the attacks happened. The person was skilled at avoiding cameras but not perfect. They left tiny traces if you knew where to look. Jin enhanced the images as much as possible. The figure was definitely human-sized and moved with careful precision. But the quality was too poor to identify specific features or even confirm gender. He brought his findings to Commander Zethrak, who studied the evidence with growing interest. His 6 eyes focused intently on each enhanced image. "Good work, Jin," the commander said. "But we need more than shadows. Can you identify this person? Jin had been hoping for this question. He had spent hours developing a new approach to the investigation. Sir, I want to map every human student's location during each incident, not just their dormitory check-ins, but everywhere they appeared on cameras throughout the day. Someone this careful would study the station layout extensively. The commander approved the expanded investigation. Jin began the massive task of tracking every human student's movements for the past month. He created detailed charts showing where each person went, when they went there, and how long they stayed. Most humans followed predictable patterns. They went to classes, the dining hall, the library, and their dormitories. Their routes were direct and logical. But one student showed a completely different pattern. Yuna Kim appeared in locations that had no connection to her class schedule or normal student activities. She had been near the engineering section, the medical waste facility, the communication arrays, and dozens of other areas that served no educational purpose. More disturbing was how she moved through the station. While other students took the main corridors, Yuna used maintenance passages, service elevators, and emergency routes. She was systematically mapping every blind spot and hidden pathway in the entire facility. Jin pulled up Yuna's academic records. She was enrolled in basic xenobiology and general studies courses. Nothing in her background suggested she would need access to restricted areas or technical facilities. But her movement patterns told a different story. She had visited the medical supply depot 6 times in the past month. She had spent hours near the security office, close enough to observe guard rotations and shift changes. She had even been near the commander's personal quarters, though she had no legitimate reason to be in that section. "Commander," Jin reported, "I think we found our attacker." Zethrak reviewed Jin's evidence with growing alarm. The quiet human girl who sat in the back of classrooms had been conducting detailed surveillance of the entire station. Her innocent appearance was the perfect cover for intelligence gathering. "We need to test this theory," the commander decided. "If she is really protecting human students, she will respond to a new threat." They developed a careful plan. Jin would spread a false rumor that a group of manted warriors were planning to assault Ta Park. The story would be detailed enough to seem credible, but fake enough that they could monitor how information spread through the station. They set up advanced quantum sensors around areas where they expected Yuna to operate. These devices were supposedly undetectable, using technology that even experienced agents should not be able to spot. The trap was perfect. If Yuna took action against the fake manted threat, they would have her on the most advanced surveillance equipment in the galaxy. But Jin made one critical error in his analysis. He assumed Yuna was reacting to threats as they developed. He did not consider that she might be several steps ahead of everyone else. 3 hours after they activated the quantum sensors, alarms began going off throughout the security center. Someone had hacked into their surveillance network and was downloading their entire operational database. The hack was not destructive. Whoever did it took copies of everything, but left the original systems undamaged. They wanted information, not chaos. Jin traced the network intrusion back to its source. The hack had come from inside the station, using the quantum sensors themselves as access points. Someone had not only detected their supposedly invisible surveillance equipment, but had turned it into a gateway for system penetration. Commander Zethrak stared at his compromised security screens with a mixture of fear and admiration. Yuna had not just avoided their trap. She had used it to steal their secrets. The quiet girl in the back of the classroom was playing a game they were only beginning to understand. Commander Zethrak stood outside Yuna's dormitory door at 600 hours. His massive frame filled the hallway as he prepared for the confrontation. Behind him, 4 armed security officers waited for his signal. This time, there would be no escape for the quiet human girl. The door opened before he could knock. Yuna appeared in her nightclothes, rubbing her eyes sleepily. She looked tiny next to the towering Nephilim commander, like a child who had been woken from peaceful dreams. "Commander," she asked in a confused voice, "is something wrong? Did something happen to my family on Earth?" Her performance was perfect. The worried expression, the trembling voice, the way she instinctively stepped back from his intimidating presence. Anyone watching would see a frightened student facing a powerful authority figure. "We need to search your room, Miss Kim," Zethrak said formally. "Step aside, please." Yuna nodded quickly and moved out of the way. Her hand shook as she wrapped her robe tighter around herself. "Of course, Commander. I want to help with your investigation however I can." The security team entered her room and began a thorough search. They looked under her bed, inside her closet, and through every drawer and container. They used scanners to detect hidden compartments and analyzed every surface for trace evidence. 20 minutes later, they found nothing suspicious. The room contained textbooks, study materials, personal belongings, and normal student items. There were no weapons, no surgical tools, no files on alien anatomy. Everything looked exactly like what a regular student would own. Commander Zethrak felt frustrated but not surprised. Someone as careful as their suspect would not keep evidence in obvious places. "Miss Kim," he said, "we know you have been moving around the station at unusual times. Can you explain why?" Yuna's eyes filled with tears. "I have trouble sleeping sometimes. Walking helps me relax. I know I should not go to those areas, but I was not thinking clearly. I was just trying to tire myself out so I could sleep." Her explanation sounded reasonable, but something in her manner bothered the commander. Despite her tears and apparent fear, her eyes seemed to be studying him carefully. It was like she was memorizing every detail of his appearance and behavior. "Tell me about your family background," he continued. "My parents are farmers on Earth," Yuna said softly. "They grow rice in the southern regions. I am the first person in my family to leave our planet. They are very proud of me for being accepted at the academy." As she spoke about her family, Yuna began including small details that she should not have known. She mentioned that Nephilim children were kept in protected environments until age 15. She talked about how Nephilim parents would do anything to protect their offspring from harm. Commander Zethrak realized she was describing his own family situation. His children lived on Nephilim Prime under heavy security because of his position. She should not have access to that information. "You seem to know a lot about Nephilim family structures," he observed. Yuna smiled innocently. "I read about different species in my spare time. Your people have such interesting social bonds, especially the way Nephilim leaders become extremely violent when their families are threatened." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Somehow, this human student had gathered detailed intelligence about his personal life and was letting him know she could use it. Before he could respond, Jin Lee brought Ta Park into the room. The plan was to use Ta as leverage, hoping Yuna would reveal herself to protect her fellow human. "Ta will be charged as an accomplice unless someone tells us the truth," Zethrak announced. Ta looked confused and frightened. "Commander, I do not understand. What am I accused of?" Yuna looked at Ta, then at the commander. Her expression changed completely. The tears stopped and her posture straightened. When she spoke again, her voice was calm and controlled. "Let him go," she said quietly. "He had nothing to do with this." "So you admit you are responsible for the attacks?" Yuna nodded slowly. "I removed threats to human students. Crix was planning to seriously hurt Ta. Professor Velthar was failing humans to make room for alien students in advanced courses. The Chitauri were poisoning food supplies in areas where humans ate. The aquatic students were spreading disease rumors to isolate us socially." Commander Zethrak stared at her in shock. "How could you possibly know all of that?" "I listened. I watched. I planned." Yuna's voice became clinical and professional. "On Earth, we learned long ago that survival requires eliminating problems before they grow large enough to threaten us. What you call random violence, we call threat assessment and preemptive action." Ta backed away from Yuna, seeing her clearly for the first time. "You are not just a student." "None of us are just students," Yuna replied. "Every human in space is either trained to protect human interests or protected by someone who is. Did you really think Earth would send our people into an alien galaxy without preparation? The quiet girl in class had finally shown her true face. Commander Zethrak sealed the interrogation room and activated full privacy shields. What Yuna had just revealed could not be allowed to spread through the station. If other species learned that humans were running covert operations, it could trigger a galactic war. "Explain everything," he demanded, his 6 eyes focused intently on the small human girl. Yuna sat calmly in her chair, no longer pretending to be frightened. "My real name is Agent Yuna Kim, Threat Assessment Division, Earth Defense Command. I graduated from the Seoul Military Academy at age 16 and completed advanced xenobiology warfare training at the hidden facility on Luna Base." Tay's mouth fell open. "Luna Base is supposed to be a research station." "It is," Yuna replied. "We research how to neutralize every known alien species in the galaxy." She looked directly at Commander Zethrak, including Nephilim. The commander felt a chill run through his massive frame. "How long has Earth been planning this?" "Since we first detected alien radio signals in 2157, Yuna answered. "Earth Command knew that eventually we would make contact with other species. We had 2 choices, be victims or be prepared. We chose preparation." She stood up and walked to the wall display, calling up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared at hundreds of locations across dozens of star systems. "Every red dot represents a human operative," she explained. "We have people embedded in governments, military organizations, research facilities, and educational institutions throughout known space. Some are diplomats and traders. Others are maintenance workers and food service staff. All are trained to gather intelligence and eliminate threats to human expansion." Jin Lee stared at the map in horror. "There are thousands of them." 12,437 active operatives as of last month, Yuna confirmed. "Each one has spent years learning alien biology, psychology, and social structures. We know which species can be trusted as allies, which ones need to be contained, and which ones must be eliminated before they become problems." Commander Zethrak studied the tactical implications. If humans really had that many trained agents in place, they could cripple galactic civilization overnight. "What is your mission here at the Academy?" "Assessment and recruitment," Yuna replied. "The Academy brings together young members of every major species. It is the perfect place to study alien behavior and identify future threats. Students here will become leaders, scientists, and military officers. We need to know which ones will support human interests and which ones will oppose us." She gestured toward Ta. "Even he is part of the operation, though he does not know it. His friendly, harmless personality makes aliens comfortable around humans. They say things near him that they would never say if they suspected surveillance." Ta looked betrayed. "You used me." "We protected you," Yuna corrected. "Every alien who planned to hurt you has been neutralized. Every professor who tried to sabotage your grades has been warned. You have been safer here than you would be anywhere else in the galaxy." Commander Zethrak realized the scope of what he was facing. "This is not just about protecting human students. You are preparing for conquest." "We prefer the term expansion," Yuna said calmly. "Humans do not start wars. We end them before they begin. Every species in the galaxy believes they are the dominant predator. They are wrong." She activated a secure communication device that had been hidden in her clothing. The holographic image of a middle-aged Asian woman appeared in the room. She wore the uniform of an Earth military officer. "This is Colonel Mia Shin, Strategic Operations Command," the woman announced. "Commander Zethrak, you have discovered information that puts you in a difficult position. You can either work with us to maintain galactic stability, or you can try to oppose us and watch your civilization collapse." The colonel's image turned to focus on Yuna. "Agent Kim, status report. Academy assessment complete, Colonel. Threat level minimal. Most species here lack the unity or technology to challenge human expansion. Recommend proceeding to Phase 2 operations." "Understood." Prepare for transition to open cooperation protocols. The pretense of being harmless students is no longer necessary. Commander Zethrak felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. The galaxy had just changed forever, and most species did not even know it yet. The quiet girl in class had revealed herself as the tip of humanity's hidden spear. Commander Zethrak spent 3 sleepless days reviewing classified intelligence reports from across the galaxy. What he discovered made his worst fears seem small and simple. The pattern was everywhere once you knew how to look for it. Anti-human politicians who died in mysterious accidents, military leaders who suffered sudden illnesses before they could implement policies restricting human trade, scientists who lost their research funding after opposing human colonies in their systems. On Vorthik Prime, the 3 generals who had proposed attacking human shipping lanes all died within a month of each other. Officials called it a plague, but the symptoms matched no known disease. On the Zeltharian homeworld, the entire council that voted against human mining rights was replaced after a series of scandals exposed their corruption. The accidents looked random to anyone studying individual cases, but when viewed as a whole, they revealed a deliberate campaign to remove obstacles to human expansion. Someone had been quietly eliminating opposition leaders for years. Jin Li brought him more disturbing evidence. "Commander, I analyzed the timing of these incidents. They all happened within weeks of the victims making anti-human statements or decisions. Someone has been monitoring galactic communications and responding to threats immediately." "How is that possible?" Zethrak asked. "The humans must have access to the primary communication networks. They are reading our classified messages and intercepting our private conversations. They know what we are planning before we do it." The scope of human infiltration was staggering. They had not just embedded agents in key positions. They had compromised the basic infrastructure that connected galactic civilization. Every message sent, every decision made, every plan developed was being monitored by human intelligence services. Zethrak realized he faced an impossible choice. If he exposed the human conspiracy, it would trigger panic across the galaxy. Dozens of species would demand immediate action against Earth. The resulting war would destroy everything they had built over centuries of cooperation. But if he remained silent, humanity would continue their gradual takeover until resistance became impossible. Already, human influence was spreading through trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic missions. In 10 years, they might control enough infrastructure to hold the galaxy hostage. His communication system activated, showing an incoming priority message from the Galactic Council on Nexus Prime. The image of High Counselor Drexthul appeared on his screen. The ancient ethereal looked worried. "Commander Zethrak, we need to discuss recent developments immediately. Come to Nexus Prime with full documentation of your investigation." The transmission ended abruptly. Zethrak realized that word of the human conspiracy was already spreading through back channels. Other species were discovering the same patterns he had found. Before he could prepare for departure, another ship arrived at the Academy. The vessel looked like a standard human transport, but its energy signatures suggested military-grade equipment hidden inside civilian covering. A young human man disembarked and presented himself at the security office. He appeared to be in his early 20s with friendly features and casual clothing. His identification listed him as Da Kim, a transfer student from Earth seeking to study astroengineering. "I am here to complete the Academy program," Da told Jin Li with a warm smile. "I hope I am not too late to register for classes." Jin ran standard background checks on the new student. Everything appeared normal. Earth University transcripts, medical records, and family information all seemed legitimate. But after learning about Yuna's deception, Jin no longer trusted appearances. That evening, Yuna met privately with Da in a secure area of the station. Their conversation was brief and conducted in a language that was not standard Korean or English. When they finished, Da nodded and walked away. Commander Zethrak watched the meeting through hidden cameras he had installed after the quantum sensor incident. He could not translate their words, but their body language suggested they were discussing operational changes. The next morning, an official message arrived from Earth's diplomatic mission. It requested a formal meeting between Academy leadership and human representatives to discuss expanded cooperation opportunities. The message was polite and professional, but its timing was not coincidental. Earth knew their secret was out and was moving to the next phase of their plan. Zethrak looked at his officers gathered in the briefing room. "We are no longer dealing with hidden threats," he announced. "The humans are coming into the open." The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council lasted 18 hours. Representatives from 47 species argued, threatened, and demanded action against the human conspiracy. The Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime had never seen such chaos. High Counselor Drexthul struggled to maintain order as speakers took turns describing the evidence they had discovered. The Vorthek delegation presented files showing how their military leaders had been systematically eliminated. The Zeltharians revealed communication intercepts proving human agents had been reading their classified messages for years. Some species called for immediate military action against Earth. The Mantid War Council demanded a full invasion fleet to destroy human colonies before they could expand further. The Aquatic Alliance wanted to cut all trade relationships and isolate humanity completely. Other species took a different approach. The trader guilds pointed out how much galactic commerce now depended on human shipping routes. The Medical Consortium noted that human research had led to breakthrough treatments for dozens of alien diseases. Attacking Earth would hurt everyone. Commander Zethrak presented his evidence from the Academy investigation. He showed the detailed files Una had compiled on alien students and faculty. He explained how human operatives had been protecting their people while gathering intelligence on potential threats. "The question is not whether humans are dangerous," he concluded. "The question is what we do about it now that we know." As the council debated, 3 human ships arrived at Nexus Prime. They requested permission to dock and participate in the discussions. The ships appeared to be standard diplomatic vessels, but sensor readings revealed hidden weapon systems and military-grade shields. Colonel Nia Shin led the human delegation into the council chamber. She was accompanied by 6 other humans, each wearing simple business attire that concealed their true nature as elite operatives. Behind them walked Una, no longer pretending to be a student. "Honored counselors," Colonel Shin began, "we come in peace to discuss the future of galactic cooperation." High Counselor Drexthul rose from his crystalline throne. "You come after decades of deception and assassination. How can we trust anything you say?" Colonel Shin smiled calmly. "Because we are no longer hiding our capabilities. Deception was necessary when we were weak. Now that we are strong, we can afford to be honest." She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. It showed detailed intelligence files on every species representative present. Personal information, family details, political positions, and vulnerability assessments appeared for each counselor. "This is what we know about your governments, your military capabilities, and your economic dependencies," she explained. "We have this level of information for every major leader in the galaxy." The counselors stared in shock at their own classified secrets displayed openly. Some tried to object, but Colonel Shin continued speaking. "We also know about the secret alliance between the Vorthek and Mantid military forces. We are aware of the Zeltharian plan to develop biological weapons. We have intercepted communications about the plot to sabotage human colonies in the Outer Rim." She gestured to Yuna, who stepped forward with a datapad. "Agent Kim has prepared a comprehensive report on which species have been planning hostile actions against humanity. Some of you have been very busy plotting our destruction." Yuna began reading names and dates. She described assassination attempts against human diplomats that had been quietly prevented. She listed military buildups that had been disrupted by convenient accidents. She revealed intelligence operations that had been compromised by human counter-surveillance. "Every action you have taken against us has been anticipated and countered," Colonel Shin concluded. "We are not here to negotiate from a position of weakness. We are here to offer you a choice." High Counselor Drexthul demanded to know what choice they were being offered. Join us in building a better galaxy, or be replaced by leaders who will, Colonel Shin replied. We prefer cooperation to conquest, but we will accept either outcome. Commander Zethrak realized that the meeting was not a negotiation. It was humanity delivering an ultimatum to the galaxy. 6 months after the Emergency Council meeting, Galactic Academy Station Epsilon 7 looked completely different. The name had changed to the Human Galactic Cooperation Center, and delegations from across the galaxy arrived daily to study new educational programs. Director Yuna Kim stood in her office overlooking the main assembly hall. At 19 years old, she was the youngest facility administrator in galactic history. Her official title was Cultural Integration Specialist, but everyone understood her real role. She decided which species received advanced technology training, and which ones learned basic cooperation skills. The morning briefing began with reports from across the galaxy. Colonel Topark, now head of Human Integration Services, presented the daily status updates with his characteristic friendly smile. The Vorthak High Command has requested additional human advisors for their military academies, he reported. 3 more Zeltharian colonies have applied for human administration assistance. The Mantid War Council wants to discuss joint operations in the Outer Rim territories. Yuna nodded as she reviewed the requests. Each one represented another step in humanity's expanding influence. Species that had once plotted against Earth now competed for human approval and support. What about the resistance movements? She asked. The underground rebellion on Chitauri Prime lost their main communication network last week, Tay replied. Strange technical failures seem to happen whenever they try to organize opposition to human cooperation agreements. Through the office windows, they could see alien students attending classes taught by human instructors. The curriculum focused on efficiency, problem-solving, and strategic thinking. What the students learned was how to serve human interests while believing they were advancing their own species. A group of young Nephilim diplomats sat in the main classroom, taking careful notes as their human teacher explained optimal resource allocation. They thought they were learning advanced economics. Actually, they were being trained to structure trade agreements that would benefit Earth's expanding colonies. Jin Li entered the office with intelligence reports from newly discovered systems. As head of exploration services, he managed first contact protocols with species humanity had not yet encountered. We have identified 12 new civilizations in the Andromeda approach sectors, he reported. All show potential for integration into our expansion framework. Preliminary assessments suggest minimal resistance expected. Yuna studied the files on these new species. Each report included detailed analysis of their biology, social structures, and potential vulnerabilities. Earth's exploration ships carried more than just scientists and diplomats. They included teams trained to identify threats and develop neutralization strategies. The communication system activated with an incoming message from Earth Command. Admiral Chen Wang appeared on the holographic display, his uniform bearing the insignia of Galactic Operations Command. Director Kim, status report on current operations. All sectors showing optimal progress, Admiral, Yuna replied. Resistance activities have decreased by 73% over the past quarter. Integration protocols are ahead of schedule on 38 worlds. Recommend proceeding to Phase 3 expansion. Approved. Begin preparation for Andromeda operations. Target timeline is 18 months for initial contact missions. The transmission ended, leaving the office quiet. Through careful planning and patient execution, humanity had secured dominance over known galactic civilization without firing a single shot in open warfare. Most species still believed they were partners in a cooperative alliance. That afternoon, new students arrived for the Advanced Cultural Exchange Program. Among them was a quiet human girl who sat in the back corner of the orientation classroom. She appeared nervous and shy as alien students introduced themselves around her. Yuna watched from the observation gallery as the girl opened her notebook and began sketching. The drawings showed detailed anatomical studies of the new species present in the class. Her movements were precise and professional, just like Yuna's had been months earlier. The girl's name was Hannah Lee, According to her files, she was a biology student from Earth's agricultural regions. Her real background included graduation from advanced threat assessment training and specialization in xenobiology warfare applications. As the orientation continued, Hannah listened quietly while other students discussed their homeworlds and cultures. She was gathering intelligence on species that humanity had not yet fully analyzed. Her innocent questions revealed military capabilities, political structures, and social weaknesses that would be useful for future operations. At the end of the day, Yuna reviewed her final report for Earth Command. The galaxy was secure under human influence. Trade routes were controlled by human corporations. Military alliances included human oversight. Scientific research flowed through human-managed networks. The quiet girl in the back of the classroom had helped humanity become the apex predators of the galaxy. And in distant Andromeda, new prey waited to be discovered.